Hello, everybody. My name's James, and welcome to the first Planet FPL Clash of the Correspondents of the 2024-25 season. And these two correspondents are very happy that Everton exist because they're not bottom of the league. Firstly, let me introduce you to our Wolves correspondent. It's Bradley Parker. How are you, Bradley?
Yeah, I'm all right here.
Yes, not too bad. Thank you, mate. And our Chelsea correspondent, Gary Mantle's in. How are you, Gary?
I'm good. Yeah, we're out of the relegation zone on alphabetical order at the moment, and
Yeah,
maybe we'll take that at the end of the season.
maybe the way it's going, I don't know. And of course, what we should have to do, particularly because Gary's here, is we must timestamp this. I will tell you this exactly 8:14 p.m. on Wednesday, August the 21st, because by the time you listen or watch this, who knows what Chelsea may have done. But Bradley, I'd like to start with yourself first, because one of Chelsea's recent signings was from your club.
hmm
Pedro Neto. How does it feel that he's gone?
Uh, Expected. I was surprised he went to Chelsea though, because there's literally pretty much zero links with Chelsea, and then within a day he's like packed his bag and gone. Just really came out of nowhere. I'm surprised he's gone there though. I thought he'd held off for a Champions League club. Like,
Get your digs in, Brad.
I mean, Chelsea probably won't get there this season, so and I'm sure a Champions League club would have picked him up.
Well, some fighting talk there, Gary. Have you got any armory on Wolves? Do you just want to get off your chest straight away?
Uh, no, I'll come to it later when we talk about the fixture if you want.
Okay, all right. How good is he though, Brad? What can Gary expect?
Uh, He'd be the best winger at the club by a mile. Very direct. Um, Great crosser of the ball. What I wouldn't expect is him to drive into the box as much, probably, or attack the back post. He's very traditional winger, gets the ball out of his feet, drives to the byline, puts the ball in. It's up to everybody else to get on the end of it. But his work rate's quite decent as well overall. I think he'd be a crowd favourite as long as he can stay fit, because he does. He's just that sort of player that you get on the edge of your seat for and just say, go on, Neto, go," like we had with Adam.
I was going to ask you, Gary, if you were surprised by the transfer, but that's probably missing the point here. I suppose at least it was someone you'd heard of, right?
Genuinely, like that was a positive for me. Yeah, that we'd bought a player. I was like, I know that this player can play at the top higher level of the Premier League because nobody else that we've signed this summer have I felt that about. And this one was like, oh, good. We've actually signed someone who I know is good in the Premier League.
First impressions on him? I know you've only got sort of half hour against the champions at the weekend.
Well, what Brad said there is apparently something that Maresca quite likes. We'll talk about Sterling later on, but apparently he didn't like that Sterling always wants to drive into the middle. He wants his wingers to stay a lot wider. So this is when Neto is probably going to fit in pretty well in left wing in the system. Um, yeah, I haven't seen much of him, and he was against the best team in the league, but I think he is the best left winger that we've got. And we're probably not going to play with a right winger because Cole Palmer's going to be there. So yeah, Brad's right. He's the best winger at the club.
Okay. No, do we think that with Palmer he's settled then? Because that's obviously what we've seen against City now, but that doesn't necessarily tell us what we're going to see against others, right?
I don't think it's possible to use settled and Chelsea in the same sentence, but uh, I think that is his best position and he's our best player. So I think that is probably going to continue.
Okay, let's get this Raheem Sterling business out the way. I think what's happened there? Is he training at home? Has he just been jettisoned out the club? Why has it suddenly happened? Has he done something wrong, or is it just too many footballers and Chelsea decided to cut him? Because this isn't from the outside. I'm just this isn't going to make it easier to get rid of him if you want to move him on.
No. Um, so Maresca did a press conference today, which is ahead of our Conference League game tomorrow. It was relatively spiky in certain places, and he didn't seem to like being asked some of the questions, which he's going to have to get used to. And there was a lot of it on Raheem Sterling. And he was saying how, well, it's not just him. There's about 15 players who are training away from the first team, which includes the likes of Ben Chilwell and, oh God, obviously there's a long list, Kepa and all of that. Um, we've given away Raheem Sterling's squad number. We've given it to Neto. Neto is now taking number 7. So I think
What do you think of that?
if Sterling's not going to be in the squad, then fine.
But it seems a bit. It's a bit of a stretch, and it's pushing a bit too far. Or,
So
or is it like kind of an undercurrent of sending a message like, yeah, we're even taking your number off you?
pretty much, he wants to work with like a first team squad, which is about 25 players, and we've got about 40 players. Hence, there's about 15 that are training away, and he's really sending that message. Now, if you remember in my preseason pod, one of the people I compared him to was AVB, and AVB did exactly this. He said that Anelka and Alex weren't going to train with the first team squad, got rid of them in January, got rid of AVB in February. So this might go the same way. It's him putting, as you say, his authority on the squad. In some ways, I think that's quite good because it's something that Graham Potter never did. He just accepted that he had to train with like around about 35 people, including people that weren't in like his European squad and all of this kind of stuff. And Maresca's like, no, if I don't want you, then that's it. You're training elsewhere, which might even be at home from what we've heard. Well, Carragher was on Monday Night Football, wasn't he? I didn't watch it, and obviously you didn't because you were at it. But he was saying like, I don't even know where Joao Felix is going to get changed. Well,
I have seen
this
that
is
clip.
yeah. Well, this is. I mean, as much as I don't particularly like Jamie Carragher, he has got a point, and this is part of how you solve it, isn't it?
So,
Well, half of them aren't going to be there.
well, this is interesting. So, I get the impression that Maresca wants about 21 players. That's what I've read today. He wants to work with about
Yeah.
21, i.e., obviously, if you've got a couple of injured players, you call a few up to join that. He wants to work with roughly about 21 players. You can obviously have a squad of 25, and then you kind of underage players can obviously go on top of that. But he's like, has the manager told people at the club that that's what he wants? Because on the outside, we just look at it and go, well, this is at odds then with what he wants. And where are the rest of these guys? It's not just Sterling, right? What are they doing?
No, don't know. Honestly, I've got absolutely no idea. They're just not training with the first team. I don't know if they're in a different part of Cobham. I don't even know if they're at Cobham. I don't know where they get changed. I don't know anything. I just know that they're not training with the first team. This was all part of his press conference. He's told the press, so he must have told the players. It's pretty bad if he hasn't told the players. He said he'd had a conversation with Sterling. As we know, like Sterling got a bit stitched up with the thing at the weekend where he got framed as in that he'd made a statement which he hadn't. His team had been asked to respond to an article and they had, and rather than put that in the article, they framed it as a standalone statement. But apparently, in between the article being written and Sterling being left out of the squad, Maresca spoke to Sterling, which was on Saturday, and hasn't spoken to him since because it was, you're not going to be getting
So
many
we
minutes
think
at
he
Chelsea.
told him straight at the weekend, and that therefore for
Yeah.
him it's just the end of it.
That's it.
Okay.
Yep.
Bradley, what do you make of them? Like, as a Wolves fan, I presume you've got no particular dislike for Chelsea. Like how do you view them?
Just chaotic. Like it's led from the top, though, isn't it? I guess so. Leads all the way down. The way they're treated, like Gallagher and stuff's really bad. Like the academy players, he's really bad.
Gary, do you want to move that on to Gallagher? I mean, we kind of knew this was going to happen. He was going to go to Atletico, but even that's been a mess over the last 10 days or so, hasn't it?
Yeah, because we hadn't bought someone off them so that they could afford to buy him off us, which just tells you how ridiculous our transfer business is. Because the player we were going to buy all fell through. So when we did our pod, which was, I don't know how long ago, only 2 weeks ago or whatever, we assumed it was done with Gallagher and Omarodian. And then that isn't done. And now Joao Felix has come in. I will say this, that Felix and Neto are both better than Mudryk and Sterling. That's an upgrade at left wing. Playing either of them is an upgrade. So I don't mind it.
Sorry, over Mudryk and who? Sorry,
Sterling.
Well, Sterling's obviously gone anyway, basically.
No, but even if he wasn't, I'm saying that we haven't just got him out because of his like wages. He's also not good enough. So he also hasn't played well enough.
Is that what Felix is to you, a left winger?
I think so. I think that's where he's going to get used, but he could get used in Maresca was saying in the centre forward position, but that is unless we go and buy another centre forward, which I'm expecting that we will do. Or he could play in Nkunku's position, which is also Dewsbury Hall's position. Because obviously joined up transfers doesn't really come into it with us. So why do we buy Dewsbury Hall? We're then also going to buy Felix to play in the same position that Nkunku also plays in.
And you've
that
just
we
bought
played
Neto.
Fernandes in at
You've
the
just bought
weekend.
Neto to play left wing, and presumably Mudryk is hanging around.
Yeah, Mudryk will be hanging around. I It's probably that he was forced to get rid of Sterling over Mudryk, but we're talking about the third and fourth best left wingers, so I don't really mind. But if Sterling should be our first choice and they're getting rid of him because of high wages, that's a problem. But he's not our first choice and he's not our second choice. So I don't really mind that they're doing that. I think the way that it will be now is that it will be Neto and Felix sort of be competing for left wing, and then Nkunku, maybe Felix, maybe Dewsbury Hall for the centre. Then the right would be Palmer or Neto. Then up front is Jackson or Felix or Nkunku.
Fernandes played 10 at the weekend.
Yeah, which doesn't fit into what I just said.
You haven't mentioned Madueke.
No, because I have a feeling he is going to want to go. I think there's been noises about him going, and I bet he's looking to leave. And if I was him, that's exactly what I would do.
Oh, where are you at now? Like with the signings, we kind of joked about it a couple of weeks ago. But what do you feel now? Are you like almost like get to the 31st and just fit the
Well,
stop, or
we've at least started buying players that I look at and think, well, that does improve our squad. I do want to just get to the
get that?
31st. And if we did sign a striker, and if it was someone like Osimhen, I'd go, yeah, well, that improves our squad. So I don't mind. What we predominantly don't like is buying these players that don't improve the squad, that we then say, oh, we've had to get rid of Gallagher. Well, why did you buy Leslie Ogochukwu and then loan him out? Why have you bought Kieran Dewsbury Hall when you've already got two players that play in that position? Why have we bought all these kids that are then being loaned? Why have you bought Caterday, who you loaned to Leicester, bring him back, and now he's training with the 15? Stop doing that, and then maybe you won't have to sell Conor Gallagher. That's what annoys us. Buying players to improve the squad, nobody minds, but we haven't done that until now. So
Meanwhile, Bradley, you sold Neto for what we saying, 50 to 60 million, roughly, somewhere in that ballpark. Plus Max Kilman for sort of 40. So what we saying, 90 million roughly for the two, maybe even pushing towards 100 with add-ons, etc. And yet your budget is 20 million.
Yeah, apparently.
So what's going on there? Because we were under the impression that probably a big player would have to go this year, i.e. Neto. We thought maybe when the Kilman deal happened that maybe that wasn't necessary. But with both going, it was a presumption that there would be something you can do. Like 20 million is it's not worth anything. I mean, I don't even know if you can buy any of Chelsea's outcasts with that 20 million, actually. Any of them available for under 20, Gary?
Ben Chilwell would be.
Under 20 million?
Well, because he's got less than that remaining. He's been there 4 years. He's got 50 million. So he's only got 10 million remaining.
Okay. She'd left
So
back.
about 20
Bradley.
million.
Do you need a
You've
left
got
back?
Aït-Nouri, haven't you? No, you don't need Ben Chilwell.
We need
Sort of one. What age is Aït-Nouri, Bradley?
20, 23, I think.
Right, so you don't want to pick up the phone and ask Chelsea about Ben Chilwell because they'll start asking you if they can do swap deals and stuff, won't they? Probably, Gary.
Well, in theory, Aït-Nouri doesn't fit in our system either. If Ben Chilwell doesn't, then neither does Aït-Nouri. But you know that they'd probably reverse that if
What's
it meant
happening
that we
with
could just buy another player.
What's the reaction then to this rumor 20 million, Bradley?
I think everyone is fairly safe to say pissed off. Everyone's dug up his quote last summer where he said, like, next summer we'd be more financially free to make some moves.
That was on the website officially, wasn't it? Official statement. Yeah.
I mean, Kilman, high fee, not a key player, I'd say, really, overall, in terms of everything. Neto, big fee. Like, that's 100, nearly enough, 100 million. And they've not replaced him yet, still. I don't know why they're scrounging around again. I've said it a few times now. I just think the owners are happy to soak up the money and make the club look as attractive as possible for somebody else to buy it at this point. Because that's what it seems like. Why put money in? I'm not worried for this season, but longer term, if that keeps happening, you only sink.
Yeah.
Like to them, and 70 million to, I don't know, finish 5 places higher, which would be like, I don't know, what, 8th, where you can spend 20 million, stay in the Premier League and get your same money anywhere.
Gary, what's the neutral view on Wolves?
Oh, now I get to like give something back. I think they're one of the 6 worst teams in the league.
Go on, keep going. Don't hold back, mate.
Well,
Fuck it.
I think if you ask most people, you'd go to 3 promoted teams, and probably Wolves, Everton, and Forest. I think most people would say that, wouldn't they? I
Bradley,
wouldn't, because I think Forest will be quite good, but I would
do
say
you think you'll
Wolves.
finish bottom six, Bradley? I know that you don't.
Now they'll finish bottom six.
Was Neto gone when we did correspondent week?
No.
No.
No. So you were
But the
sort of
thing is,
saying then
playing
you
with,
thought top half maybe.
yeah, playing with Neto, I would always count as a luxury because we've basically played him most of the time. So having Neto is a luxury. So most of the time we did well without him.
Was it what was the statistic? 27% availability since he joined you.
Yeah, something like that. I think he missed over like 100, maybe close to nearly 200 days, I think, overall during his time here.
I mean,
That wouldn't put him
Gary,
bottom at Chelsea.
I
Like
was going to say,
Lavia's below that, and Kunku's below that. Reece James is probably below that.
you've obviously had injury problems. I know one of the key objectives actually of the club this year was to sort that out, but
Mhm.
you're buying a very injury prone player here, unfortunately.
Because we seem to think we've got genius doctors that can heal anyone, and a manager that's going to manage the squad properly. And maybe he will, and maybe that will help Neto. That he isn't going to be like, oh, he has to play for Chelsea. Maybe he's going to get more rest, and he's going to play 90 a lot. Well, I was going to say a lot less, but he didn't play 90 for you much. But they probably wanted him to. It might help him. I don't know, or he might just carry on exactly as he has, and yeah, it'll just be another one.
So Gary, if
Treatment.
you think Wolves are potentially one of the bottom six, I don't think it's wild to say that. Why have you got such a poor record there, mate?
I was going to say this actually. Yeah, do you know the last time we won there? I'm
I
guessing you
do.
do since you just brought
Here's
it
an
up.
irony considering everything we discussed. Tammy
Exactly.
Abraham hat
Yeah,
trick, 5-2
that's right.
victory with a team full of kids under Frank Lampard, basically.
Well, do you know who scored the other two goals?
Tamori
The
got
more
one, didn't he?
Yep, and
Definitely.
Mounts.
Mason Mount. That's right. So
Sounds
all
right.
of our scorers were from our youth team, and we had a transfer ban and an inexperienced manager, and we came top four with that side. And now here we are, and we've spent $1 billion and something, and we're probably not going to come top four.
The results at Molineux since that, and that was September 2019, not been good, mate.
No, it's been awful. Well, we haven't won, so
This is a bogey
and we're not even
ground.
that good at home anymore either. And we lost both times to Wolves last season.
Killing
So
hat trick.
last visits to Molineux, lost 2-1, lost 1-0, 0-0 draw, lost 2-1. Those are your last four.
The 0-0 was in the fog as well, so they probably couldn't see
Wasn't
the
that the
goal
game that they
score.
refused to postpone the game?
That's right. Yeah,
I recall
yeah,
that just before Christmas, yeah.
that's it. Yeah.
And
No, we've got
that's
an
the only
awful
one you got
record at
something
Wolves.
out of, and you were trying to get it
Yeah.
postponed.
That's right. No, we've got an awful record of Wolves. That's why I was like, despite what I just said, I also don't think if I was going to be going for Chelsea players in FPL, I wouldn't start until next week.
You confident about this fixture or not?
Me?
Yeah.
No.
Are you, Bradley?
Uh, I think we can definitely beat them. It's sometimes like individual brilliance for Chelsea that can do it. So you've got to be mindful of that. That's what I'm always a bit wary of. I think overall as like a team, like we can beat them. Like Enzo Fernandez and Caicedo, like the last two times have like basically been bullied by Gomez and Lamina. So and that cost 200 million between them down there.
It's going right for them, isn't it?
Caicedo's got a lot better since then. Caicedo improved a lot towards the end of last season.
Is it fair to say Lavia was the standout of the two, though, on Sunday, Gary?
Of the three.
Well, of the
If you
three.
include-
I'd excluded Enzo because he played further forward.
Yeah, but I thought Lavia was brilliant. They showed the bit on Match of the Day 2 where he turned Kevin De Bruyne. And if you watch it properly, when you do that as a six, you don't just take out a player you've turned, you've taken out two other players that think you're about to win the ball back, and then suddenly we're away. And this is one of the things that our fans are going to have to get used to, because we did that kind of thing a lot, and a lot of teams do this, a lot of the top teams do it. You put it into Caicedo or Lavia, and you look at them and go, they've got three men on them, and you start shouting and whatever. They pop it off to somebody else because those players have gone towards the guy that you put it to first. They've gone out of position and somebody else is going to be free. And we did that quite often. And actually, it was quite good. I remember one went into Caicedo out to Colwell, and then he managed to play the ball forward because someone's been dragged out from the Man City midfield. And that's what you're supposed to do. But fans are going to have to get used to that, because that is going to happen That's how we're going to play.
No, there was elements of that is City. Just put it in the bin. I mean, there's elements of Sunday that you could like. And Clayton was quite impressed with your team as well, Bradley. And what you did at Arsenal, I guess it was kind of a free swing with little expectation on it. What did you make of the performance at the Emirates?
I was quite pleased overall, especially in the second half where we had like about a 15-minute spell and Arsenal quite under a lot of pressure. Which on because he was playing the back four as well. That's such a hard place to go. It could have been a lot messier, but overall, that was quite solid. They should have scored at least one goal. Cunha should have scored when he come on. But we just don't have enough firepower to put the goal past them because Raya made a great save from Larson. I don't know how the game would have gone if he had scored at that point, but there's always probably very likely to win. But the signs was good because Mosquera in particular was quite strong. Totti was a bit more of the concern.
We spoke about a more positive Wolves review a couple of weeks ago and whether we were now looking at a permanent back four. Going to the Emirates and playing with a back four suggests that's the case now, surely.
Yeah, it will be. Especially when I know they lost the game, but overall, if they apply that sort of thing to different opponents, they'll get their rewards against lesser teams.
I did my old mate Doc to play on Saturday at right back.
It was actually okay.
Yeah,
He didn't
that's
get
what I thought as well.
he didn't get rinsed, but then he might be against Neto.
So with this 20 million, what's the priority here? Is it another attacking player or is it left-sided centre back?
I think it's centre back. They're trying to apparently sign O'Shea from Burnley, which is a bit lame.
Well,
That's not
all I'd say to you about that is that's a former West Brom player, right? And I think you probably turned your nose a bit when you bought Craig Dawson as well, and he's done pretty well for
no.
you.
He's been a solid Premier League player, whereas
Okay.
Darren, relegated twice, never particularly stands out. From his stats, he just looks like a lesser version of Kilman.
I mean, that's not going to cost you 20 million either, is it? I've heard sort of 7 million mentioned or so. So maybe are you looking at a couple of players and really having to scrimp here?
Apparently, they're looking at a winger from Ajax, a young Portuguese kid, but I think his name's Forbes or something like that, but I don't know much about him.
One of the fantasy guys,
I don't
the one the fantasy guys I want to know about is Gerson Mosquera, obviously that 4.0 price. I think like if I was wildcarding this week, there'd be a consideration to put him in with the long term in mind, and he'd probably be sitting third sub for quite a while. How secure is he in terms of his minutes now?
pretty secure because if we're playing the back four, we need that athleticism, and he's the most athletic member of the back four, especially at centre back, and he performed very strongly. I know Arsenal fans want to lock him in jail and everything
He
after
was a bit lucky
he
not to go, Brad.
he was a bit
He
lucky,
knew what he
but they
was doing,
won. So
mate. He knew what he was doing.
safe American, and he so I'm going to expect some shenanigans.
That's not a Planet of Field comment. That's a Bradley Parker comment. How much did Dawson play in pre-season?
Not very many games. Not I can't remember him playing a full 90 ever.
I'm just playing devil's advocate here and trying to wonder if he's behind in fitness and how sure are we on Mosquera in that role?
I think Totti would be more likely to drop out the way he looks more shaky than Mosquera.
So for you,
But then he's only
Mosquera's first choice centre back, and you're looking for a partner.
Yeah, I'd think so. I'd like to see Dawson next to Mosquera, to be honest, sometimes. Just to lead him a little bit more, probably calm him down. Because I don't think Totti and him probably communicate that well at the minute overall.
Did you start with Mosquera in FPL?
I took him out in the end. I just thought he's that cheap that I can just pick him up when I need to, rather than he maybe just sitting on the bench for a little bit. I picked Greaves from Ipswich instead for the 4 million, and Harwood Bellis as well.
Yeah, I mean the immediate fixture's better. So yes, flip one of them to Mosquera sort of later on when you come into this really good run, sort of circa after you play Man City in game week 8, 9, 10, 11, take your pick what you fancy from there. Is he the only one to consider at the moment though for FPL?
Yeah, Cunha's back, so he can return against anybody. Like he's probably he's gonna be the main penalty taker as well. Sarabi will be on the bench most of the time, so be Cunha on the penalties.
Okay, come back to some of the formation on that. Did you start with any Chelsea, Bradley?
No.
Did you, Gary?
Yeah, and Kungu.
Okay, how are we feeling about him now? Because I think quite rightly, I think I've said several times over, he's the one I don't want to chase. Like if he does well against City, I would like to be on that, and I don't think anyone's done wrong selecting him. But the fact that he came off early, pre-hour, and since you've added Felix and essentially you didn't have Neto ready to go at the weekend either. And we know that you might do more, i.e. you've mentioned someone like Osimhen as another potential attacking player. What are you thinking at the moment with Nkunku?
I have a feeling that the reason they took him off is because with Neto going out to the left, they still wanted Jackson's height in the middle. And otherwise, if that wasn't the plan, then they would have just put Nkunku up top and taken Jackson off. Jackson got injured about 2 minutes later, which is obviously not helpful. I do think this was specific to City. We haven't played two sort of defensive midfielders and then Enzo in front of them at all in pre-season, and then we did it on Sunday, which I expected us to do on Sunday, by the way. But that is just because it was Man City. I don't think that's how we're going to line up. I would expect that Dewsbury Hall is going to start tomorrow against Servette, and Nkunku will be back in his sort of 10 position on Sunday.
Okay. What's the Jackson injury status then? Do we know anything at this stage?
No idea. He didn't really play in pre-season. He played less
Yeah.
than 45, so I'm guessing it was just like tiredness, cramp, whatever. We had a few that
Well,
had
I feel
that.
like that was the biggest thing that spooked people of all was Jackson had hardly any pre-season. You've at least give some context to that, which is important. But Nkunku could come off before Jackson concerned people.
I think it was a height thing, personally, because the idea with Neto, exactly as Brad said, is that he stays wide and he'll put in crosses, which he did do a couple of times. So you don't want Nkunku in the box if you're putting in crosses. I mean, you do, but not as the man you're aiming for. You want him to be feeding off when the ball drops, which is what he's really good at.
So in
But
any
that would have
case,
meant taking
if
off
you're
the
now going to
midfielder.
potentially play with someone like Neto,
Yeah.
is he a bad provider for someone like Nkunku? Not probably taking the wrong terminology there. Not he's a bad provider, but is it the wrong type of service? Therefore,
No,
for
I
him?
think it's the right. I think this helps Nkunku personally.
Because
Neto is looking to be a provider, and Nkunku is looking to get in the box. Now, against City, I think we had decided we wanted to put the ball in the air for like Jackson, and Gui's quite tall as well. But I think it'll be different in other games. And even then, if you put the ball in the air and the ball then drops from that sort of aerial duel, Nkunku is really, really good at getting those scraps. That is like, we don't have another player in our squad that does anything similar to that. That's how he'll score some of his goals this season. He scored like that in pre-season.
he's an absolute predator in and around the box. So
Yeah.
how do you see this as a front four? If you just remove your 6s/8s at the moment, if we are talking
Mhm.
about an attacking four,
Yeah.
what do you think is Maresca's ideal at the moment?
Neto left, Palmer right, and Kunku centre, and then the centre forward will be Jackson/Osimhen, and then Felix fills in as sort of a reserve for at least two, if not three of those positions.
So who else can you use in those positions? We've got like Madueke. I guess we're
Yeah.
including Dewsbury Hall in this.
So because he goes in that sort of 10.
Yeah. Mudrick.
Yeah.
Go until someone else is
Until
bought, in which case he'll
we will
drop
buy
out, I
someone.
would
I
guess. Yeah.
guarantee we'll buy another forward.
You don't need to guarantee that, Gary. I think we're well aware, mate. Whether it be
I
someone we've
don't mind
heard
if
of
we
or not, I
don't.
don't know. But
That's it. Just please let it be someone where I'm like, okay, he's good. He improves us. But even and if we don't, I don't mind.
is it a little
Like,
bit dependent on Lukaku a bit
well, that's why
going
they
to
want
Napoli?
Osimhen particularly,
Yeah.
because he wants out of Napoli. Lukaku wants out of Chelsea. Conte likes Lukaku. It's not going to
Yeah.
stop him whinging, but he wants his man. And then we want to get rid of Lukaku, but we don't want to break our wage structure to get Osimhen, which is like apparently a stumbling block. And I agree with it. I don't think we should break it to get Osimhen. But if he gets paid a little bit less than Lukaku, they might see that as a win. But I
Okay.
don't know.
First choice 6s for you then, based on that.
Well, I think they'll probably protect Lavia a bit. because he's young, because he's missed all of last season. I don't know what he missed for Southampton, but I think he was injured there as well. So he's been out for a very, very long time. But I think it'll be Lavia or Caicedo plus Enzo most of the time. I think Enzo's probably likely to play the most out of those three. Doesn't mean he's the best one, but he's the one that does that job that's a bit different. Or they could get Caicedo to play a slightly different role. But Lavia sitting at the 6 looks good. The two of them played really well, I thought. I thought both of them did. I thought Caicedo and Lavia. I thought our high pressing was pretty good. Particularly first half, not so much second half, but I thought both of them played that role pretty well.
So back four at the weekend was Gusto, Fofana,
Colwill, Cucurella.
and Cucurella. Is that first choice, do you think?
Yeah, probably, but it is injury dependent, and it's probably going to be team specific. But with that, you could invert them if you wanted to. But now, Gusto's been playing as the sort of right winger to give us the width that Palmer doesn't give us. So it might be that we do end up playing with the 2-6. He wants two players in that defensive midfield position, which usually is provided by one of the fullbacks inverting. If one of our fullbacks is playing right wing, then
it's jumping ahead here at the moment because I think we'd probably assume as it stands that Gusto would play at Wolves at the weekend. But what would it mean for Palmer playing off the right if, say, a Fofana was playing behind him as the right back, and you put, say, a Badia Shield back in the team? What does that mean for Palmer if he has to play on the right?
they might ask him to do a slightly different role, and that would restrict him. That wouldn't be good for him if he also had to sort of provide some of the width. He's not going to do it. Even if you tell him to, he'll probably do it for about 10 minutes and go, "This isn't my game." And he'll see that pocket of space that he normally finds, and he'll go in there, and then we'll just build everything down the left.
So is Maresca now adjusting his tactics from what we possibly anticipated to facilitate what is essentially your best player?
I think so. That's what it has looked like since Palmer came back into the team.
Okay. There's not criticism, by the way.
No, I think it's brilliant. I'm happy with this. That was my concern, that he wasn't going to do that. And now if he is, and it makes the team better. Of course, the flip side is if it doesn't work, it might come a point that he takes Palmer out of the squad.
So we should all be there for Reece James in game week 4 after all then.
Well, he's injured, isn't he?
How long for?
Again.
I don't know, but they put him in the European squad, and as far as I can tell, from what I've heard, that European squad is just for tomorrow night. So they put him in the squad.
You know why he's probably gone in, don't you?
No.
Well, technically, as a club trained player, it actually probably enabled you to pick one more.
No, maybe. Yeah.
That's probably what it is.
Yeah, he's not going to play anyway. Maresca's said he's injured, but he's in the squad, whereas Fofana's not in the squad. But I do think it's just for tomorrow night, which I didn't expect. I thought it would be for both legs, but apparently it's not.
Okay.
According to the journos.
Talk to me about the goalkeeper. There are FPL managers out there now, mate. There'll be some on wildcard looking at this run of fixtures and do want to invest in a goalkeeper or a defender at 4.5. Let's start with the keeper first. It wasn't the best at the weekend. You said to us on Correspondent Week, it could be one shaky one and he's out the team. Are we maybe already there?
Might be. I mean, I didn't think he was awful. He should have saved Kovacic's shot. He sort of that goal sort of started from him sort of hesitating a bit and thinking, I need to get rid of this quickly. And then basically every time it went anywhere near a Chelsea player, they also made a mistake. So it wasn't just him.
Yeah.
But it was him. He didn't do very well for that one. But he also made a couple of other good saves.
He also made a couple of other errors. I mean, a brilliant pass for De Bruyne in the second half as well.
Yeah, that's definitely something that he does. But if it's something that Maresca's like, okay, we can sort of coach this out of him, doesn't mean he's going to come out of the team. But my guess is that we are not going to play the same goalkeeper for the next 6 league games.
So don't go there, essentially, bottom line.
You go and find a nailed goalkeeper. Pick one of the ones that is definitely their club's first choice. You can't pick a 4.5 who's not 100% first choice. What's
What
the point?
price? What price did you say, Sar Bradley?
4.5, but then Ramsdale could come in. So
Aha, that's what I thought you was going to say. Is Sar under genuine jeopardy here then?
yeah, there's always been tiny murmurings in the summer. But they obviously want a goalkeeper. That's obvious now.
Sam
Uh,
Johnson? I mean, you do like to buy a former West Brom player, mate.
uh, no, not an upgrade, is it? I think the upgrade O'Neill wants is on the ball because Ramsdale is still a bit erratic, like Sarr can be, but his ability on the ball is about 10 times better. And if that's how he wants to progress the club, then he needs the goalkeeper to do it. That's it. Saw shot saving and stuff fine on the ball. It's like anything can happen sometimes.
So
So
Sar won't have been ignored by FPL managers because he had a more disappointing return last year, but the previous years we've highlighted before, really consistent. That's why he came in at 5 last year. So if someone's sitting there with Sar now on a 4.0, do they very much need to be on their toes here to potentially move?
yeah, be on your toes, but there's nothing like to suggest that the Ramsdale thing is happening. They have put a loan bid in with a option to buy for like 25 million next year based on appearances, which is something we do quite a bit. I don't know how Arsenal feel about that. It doesn't look like they've rejected it or accepted it, but Arsenal are trying to sign a Spanish goalkeeper, aren't they? So Ramsdale's being pushed out one way or the other.
Okay. Arsenal
So
were also bizarrely linked with Bentley, weren't
yeah, if they want to do a straight swap for that, I'm good with that as
they?
well. Get
I think as much as I dislike them, Bradley, they do their operations slightly differently to Chelsea, actually, mate. So I think probably out of luck there. So Gary, if people want to invest with Chelsea defensively, and you can see why the temptation is there,
Mm.
which one of the
Um,
4.5s defensively for you?
so I would say probably Colwill, because in Maresca's press conference, he was asked about the captains, and he clarified that Reece is the captain, and Enzo's like one of the second captains. But he said he wants to promote another couple, and he specifically talked about Colwill. Now, the danger with Colwill is that his sort of replacement players, which is Badiashile, who we've not seen for a couple of games, and then Vega, the one that in real life also looks like a football manager regen,
Yes.
that have both been having minutes, whereas Adarabioyo and Dizazi, who replaced Fofana, have not. But with Fofana, you've got the injury problems, and he's already having his minutes managed, so he's not in the squad for the game tomorrow night.
Yeah.
Whereas Colwell's a bit more secure in that regard, and I would say you're probably pretty safe with him because even if we bring Badiashile back in, it's probably going to be alongside Colwell. Whereas there could come a time that they decide that Fofana needs another rest, which is the right thing to do. He's had horrendous injury problems. Um, so Colwell's probably the safest.
Or should people pay more for Cucurella?
I wouldn't. I don't think he's particularly going to offer any attacking threat. So there's no point.
So you're telling me, Gary, this brilliant run of 6 fixtures that everyone identified, as soon as we get off the other side of Man City, make sure Gary's first on for Clash of the Correspondents, and you're telling me no one.
No, I said you can go for Colwell if you want. If you want a 4.5 Chelsea defender, I'd say go with Colwell.
Would you?
I wouldn't go with a goalkeeper. So would I?
Yeah, like if he was on wildcard now, do you think you put one in?
No.
There you go.
Um,
Same answer
I
then,
don't.
right?
I just don't trust us for clean sheets. For one, we've got about 6 number 2 goalkeepers at the club, and then we've got a relatively unsettled defence that keeps changing around. It might be like what will happen is by the time we get to the end of this run, we'll go right. We've now got a settled defence. Oh, now we've got 4 really difficult fixtures,
Okay.
but it will take a little bit of time to work that out.
I want to come back on to the final question on the attacking players in a second. Bradley, Nelson Semedo, when is he suspended till?
Still say September. I keep checking. Still say September. It's confusing.
Yeah, I don't know if you can help with this, Gary, because Reece James suspended till game week 4, right?
Yeah,
Reece James is suspended till game week 4 because he got 2 red cards last year, right?
that's right. 5 starts,
Yeah.
I think it was 2 red cards.
So he missed what, game week 38 last, was it game week 38 last year?
Yeah,
And then 1, 2, 3,
yeah,
and then it'd be available for 4. Have I got that correct? So it was a 4 game
that's
ban.
right. Yeah,
So Semedo got sent off for Wolves in game week 38. One red card last year, 3-game ban, but you've got a League Cup game, Bradley. So he's suspended for
Yeah,
one of them, surely.
yeah, you'd
he
think
should
so.
be.
You'd
So
think so.
I
So
think he should be available for game week 3. And after the cock up with Milenkovic last week, I don't really trust anyone.
yeah, I'd have thought.
Not that I'm thinking of buying Nico's cousin, Bradley, but I just want to know these sort of things, you know.
But that was
Callum
his only red
Hudson-Odoi
card, was
owners
it?
might want to know it, for example.
That was his only red card last season, was it?
Yeah. I think it's only
He
ever a
should.
red card actually for Wolves, I think, because I had a look
Uh,
through the list on transfer market. It might have been one in his
no,
first
he got
season or
sent
something.
off against Brighton. Mitoma just kept it. That's like his kryptonite. Mitoma. We can't deal with Mitoma. The one player I can't deal with.
That's interesting. Brighton in game week 9, isn't that meant to be the start of your good run, Bradley? And you're telling me that's Semedo's kryptonite is Karen Mitoma, yeah?
It is his kryptonite. We'll play Doherty. That'll get him under lock.
I don't think the Doc will deal with Mitoma as well as he seemed to do against Martinelli at the weekend. My club's been linked with one of your players, Bradley.
Gomez.
Yeah, that doesn't narrow it down, does it?
The Brazil one.
João Gomez. It was a really kind of fruity rumor that went round over the weekend. And there was a few people actually claiming of ITK Wolves knowledge, saying that there was a deal in place. And then within hours, it was like, oh, Tottenham will loan him back to Wolves. And I was like, no, someone's barking up the wrong tree here. That's not happening. Is he definitely staying, Brady? Because he's a bloody good footballer,
Yeah,
right?
he'll stay. Yeah, he'll stay. And I think next summer he'll probably get a really big move, probably more than we sold Neto for, I'd imagine.
So I guess now it feels settled. Back four, I guess, could change if you have an investment, and obviously you've got Semedo to come back from suspension. You got Lamina and João Gomez, I'm guessing, the first choice too. What
Yeah,
does the front four look like now that you've had a look at Larson and Rodrigo Gomez?
it'll be Cunha as the 10, uh, Larson up front, then it'll be Wang and Gomez, the first
So Wang
choice.
right, Rodrigo Gomez left.
Yeah,
Which one of Gomez and Larson is the one that FPL managers should really keep an eye on? Because when we spoke a couple of weeks ago, it was like we've got Neto, Huang, Cunha all at 6.5. With your fixtures, it feels a bit more expensive. It feels quite expensive. One of them might be interesting in 2 months' time. But with these guys in at 5.5, that could be even more interesting. Which one do you feel could be the breakout of the two?
I think it's really close. Gomez's points are obviously worth more if he scores. And I think he's a sort of player that'll benefit off Larson's physicality, especially like if he's challenging in the air for the headers when the ball comes in the box. What we noticed with Gomez is he attacks the back post. A lot of his goals in pre-season was attacking the back post. And if we're going to keep that sort of tactic up, you will get your rewards with him. And he's like Neto, he's similar, but the main difference is not with crossing, he will drive inside the box, which makes him more of a direct goal threat rather than an assist threat like Neto is.
Yeah, I understand that. What did you make of Larson at the weekend?
I thought he was good. I thought he showed what we need him to do. I mean, he had a hard game against Saliba and Gabriel, but he'll be fine. He'll tick over quite nicely, I think, for a 5.5. He'll probably get a nice amount of assists from layoffs and stuff like that, I think.
It's become quite an interesting price bracket, isn't it? With Armstrong, Vardy, João Pedro, throwing Larson into that. Might be one or two names more we can throw into that before the window closes as well. Gary, from a fantasy perspective, I want to close with by revisiting the Palmer and Kunku conversation. What now? If people want to invest now.
I wouldn't do it this week because we do traditionally struggle at Wolves, and I think we might struggle again at Wolves. But see how we look. And Kunku is still really good value. Now, if he gets taken off before the hour again, then you go, all right, actually, maybe he was a bit of a trap. But I do think I'd want that extra week of information. I feel like he's going to start most of the games personally, and I think Palmer's going to start pretty much all the games as well. So depends what you want to do with your squad, because you might want to. It might be that if you put in Palmer, then you wouldn't be able to get Watkins, and Watkins is probably a good option from around about the same time as Cole Palmer. So personally, I would advise wait a week and then decide who you prefer.
Do you think you'll have as much confidence in captaining Palmer this season as many of us gained towards the end of last season?
Well, I never really gained it, but I think that's because he plays for my team, and I always
Get
feel
that?
like that. So I don't think I had him captain when he scored 4 against Everton, and a lot of other people probably
I
did.
don't think most people didn't have him captain, but everyone obviously owned him.
Yeah, I can't remember. There might have been a really good other option that week. I can't remember. Um, no, if I think if he was to score at the weekend, then suddenly he's back in like the captaincy conversation for. I can't remember who else is playing in game week 3, but Palmer would be in the conversation for Palace at home.
Yeah, game week 3 is pretty open, really. Haaland goes to West Ham, Salah goes to Manchester United, Newcastle, Tottenham play each other. You're at home to Palace, which might look better by the time the window shuts and by the time we get round to that fixture. Arsenal at home to Brighton. Not leaving you out, Bradley, because you're away to Nottingham Forest. If anyone wants to go down the Rodrigo Gomez captaincy route,
The best route.
It'll be, but it'll for most people, it will depend on what they see at the weekend, won't it? With Palmer, because
yeah.
he didn't get he had a couple of shots against City. One of them I just sort of rolled to the keeper, so it wasn't like last season's Palmer, but it was against Man City.
I obviously was intending to wildcard this week. And part of that intention would have been, well, I'm going to steam into Chelsea straight away and get 3. I'm not certain I'd have any at the moment. I think if I had to do it, I think Palmer and Nkunku would both go in at the moment. And then I'd assess it with them both in now and then make a decision as your fixtures progress.
Well, this is in the same way that we could come anywhere between like 3rd and 12th, isn't it? That you could have 3 Chelsea or you could have no Chelsea, and either answer could end up being the right answer. I think 3 is probably a bit much with the way that we defend.
If I was to buy a defender from your 2 clubs at the moment in FPL, the most likely one would be Mascara.
Yeah, I agree.
Good closing point. Gents, thank you both so much. Bradley, let's do a correct score prediction for Sunday before we finish.
I'll go, I think, with Chelsea's record and stuff, I think I'll go 2-1 to us. Our home record was pretty good last season.
Good lad. Gary?
I feel like I'm going to have to predict us to win. I don't have to, but I want to have a bit of
Considering you said they were shit
optimism.
and finished bottom 6, yeah, you might as well follow it up. You can't now sit and go, I think we'll lose.
Hey, we have lost to plenty of bottom 6 teams, so that
don't
shouldn't.
we know it?
I'm going to go 2-1 to Chelsea.
Okay. So 2-1s either way. I think I'll sit on the fence. 1-1. I think it's always tricky at your place, Bradley. Atmosphere will certainly be there, bearing in mind it's first home game. I don't think you lost any positivity from the first game because I guess it was quite expected and you put up a decent showing. Similarly for yourselves as well, though, Gary, disappointing to lose at home, but you know what you're playing against, and there's obviously, even though a lot of familiar faces there, obviously a very different brand of playing. Really feels like in almost any game at the moment, Gary, until it settles, you could end up going either way. It feels.
That's right. What is
I
the
wouldn't be
reaction going to be
surprised
for
you went to
Neto, by
Wolves
the way?
and won 3-0, for example.
Is Neto going to get booed?
Good
Nah,
question.
I doubt it. I reckon there might be some that just do it for the sake of it, but not like a hardcore boo. Like
Do you think it start,
the
Gary?
boo Jota. So
Do I think he'll start? Depends what we see tomorrow night. I think if he doesn't start tomorrow night and comes off the bench, which is tonight when everybody's listening to it, if he doesn't start against Servette, I think he starts on Sunday. I think that'd be why they don't start him against Servette.
Makes sense. Okay. Gents, thank you both so much. Bradley, anything you want to plug before we finish?
no, I don't think so. Not this time.
You can listen to Bradley's Wolves rants at Parker_Bradley on Twitter. Yourself, Gary?
I've started doing predictions this year for Jump the Wave. I don't know if everybody knows about Jump the Wave, but it's a good site for, well, good Twitter account for FPL predictions. It's just a lot of fans from a lot of clubs and see like who most people think are going to start. I started with 11, with 10 out of 11 on Sunday, which was a good start.
Yeah. Do you want to tell everyone who the wrong one was?
If I'd known that Maresca had told Sterling he was never going to play for Chelsea again, I wouldn't have put him in my 11. But he was the one that was wrong. I didn't expect Jackson to start.
I had 10 as well, and I don't know if we can take anything in this. I think my wrong one was Mudryk. So
yeah, you had. I'd stopped listening to your stream by then, and when I heard Mudryk, I was like, "Well, I know you're not getting 11 then." because I
Okay.
knew he wasn't
You
starting.
could have told
Personally.
us. Yeah.
Well,
close.
I'd left by then.
I was closer than you, though, really.
What do you mean?
Well, at least Madrid was there.
Neither of them got any minute.
Gents, thank you both so much. You follow Gary as well at Phantom Mantle on X. I'll be streaming tomorrow my Ask James stream 12 o'clock UK time on Friday. Next Clash of the Correspondents, big one next Thursday, Manchester United versus Liverpool with Gary Robinson and Dan Lord. Just leaves me to say to Bradley and Gary, good luck this weekend, gents. Cue music, please. Man sharp.